new chapter in second PUC, which is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Yeah. So in case of sexual reproduction in flowering plants, tell me, what is a flower first? What is a flower? Flower is a modified vegetative shoot which is meant for sexual reproduction, isn't it? So once the plant starts bearing a flower, it means that the plant has come to the maturity stage. Okay, so that is called as a flower. Next, tell me, what are the parts of a flower now? What are the parts of flower? You have already studied in your second year regular classes. There are 4 whorls in a flower, right? There are 4 whorls in a flower. Tell me, what are accessory whorls? Remember? Accessory whorls and essential whorls. Essential whorls. So these are the 2 types of whorls present in a flower. In case of accessory whorls, there are mainly 2 main subdivisions. What are those? Can anyone tell me? Calyx and corolla. Calyx and corolla, these 2 will comes under accessory whorls. Why they are called as accessory whorls? Because they are indirectly involved in the reproduction. They are not directly involved. They are indirectly involved in the sexual reproduction. Whereas essential whorls are, gynoecium, which is a female reproductive structure, gynoecium, and androecium, okay, which is a male reproductive structure. These 2 are called as essential whorls because they are directly involved. Okay, they are directly involved in it. They are indirectly involved. Getting any clarispa till here? Okay, directly involved, and it is indirectly involved in the reproduction. So these are the 2 whorls. Coming to the calyx. What is a calyx? It is the outermost layer of the whorl. The individual unit of calyx is called as what? Sepals. Okay. If the sepals are fused, they are called as the gamosepalous. Gamosepalous. Gamo refers to fused condition and the sepals are fused. What in case of corolla, it is called as petals. The individual unit of corolla is called as petals. And what is the free condition of the sepal? Gamo refers to fused condition of sepal. If the sepals are free, then it is called as a polysepalous. Same condition here also in case of petals, it are called as gamopetalous. Okay. And if the petals are free, then they are called as polypetalous. Okay, polypetalous. Poly refers to free, gamo refers to fused condition. So in one of the condition which you can see in case of calyx also, they are called as the persistent calyx. Remember, it is called as persistent calyx. What do you mean by persistent calyx? Usually what happens in case of the flower, when it is converted into fruits and seeds, the calyx will weather off. Okay, the calyx will fall off. But in case of persistent calyx, even after the formation of fruits and seeds, some calyx will be remains along with it, will persist along with the fruits. Then it is called as what? A persistent calyx. For persistent calyx, you can give an example as a brinjal. Okay, the brinjal, you can take it, the chilies. Okay, either it may be the green chilies or the red chilies. Even after the formation of fruit, okay, the calyx will be persistent along with the fruit. So that's all about the calyx and the corolla. Corolla, what is the main function of corolla? Anyone can tell me the function of corolla? Yes, please be interactive. Yes, tell me now. The corolla, the main function of this corolla is what? To attract the insects for pollination. Okay. So it is colorful, it produces a nectar. Okay. So the main function of that corolla is that. Next, coming to the gynoecium. Gynoecium is nothing but the female reproductive organ. It looks like what is the individual unit? What is an individual unit of gynoecium called as? Anyone in the class? Yes, fast. Gynoecium. What is an individual unit of gynoecium called as? It is called as pistil. Okay, pistil. It is also called as carpel, isn't it? Pistil or carpel. How it looks like? What are the parts? It consists of the ovary, style, and the stigma. The stigma. This one is the stigma. This one is style. Okay, and this one is the ovary. Okay, stigma, style, ovary are the parts of pistil and carpel. So inside the ovary, we have embryo sac. Okay. Inside the embryo, there are presence of the ovule. Okay. Then coming to the androecium, what is an individual unit of androecium called as? Stamen. Okay. The individual unit of androecium is called as stamens. How the stamen looks like? It is made up of again two parts. So this part is called as what? Anther. Okay. And this region is called as filament. Okay, this region is called as what? Filament. So inside the anther, there are the production of pollen grains. Remember, so this pollen grains is the main male gamete you can take. Okay, the male gamete is nothing but the pollen grains. And in case of females, inside the ovary, there is a presence of a region called as egg. That is a female gamete. Okay, till here, any doubt, anyone? Have you all understood the concept? Yes, any? Please interact, no? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, coming to the stamen now, how the stamens looks like? Excuse me, tell me now. As you have studied in your previous classes like pre-fertilization events, okay, we are also going to study in this also pre-fertilization events. In pre-fertilization events, you are going to study how the formation of gametes takes place. Okay, so coming to the structure of androecium, we have already studied the stamen is an individual unit there. So the what do we call it as? The anther. Okay, so anther, if you take it, so anther is usually bilobed anther. Remember, usually the anther is bilobed. It is also called as a dithecous anther. So inside each lobe, there are four microsporangia. They are called as tetrasporangiate. Okay, please make a note that. Okay, it is called as the microsporangia. Microsporangia. Therefore, lobes are there. Each one is called as the pollen sacs. Okay, they are called as what? Pollen sacs. Microsporangia diagram, you would have studied that this is made up of the structure is looks like this, right? In your NCERT textbook, you would have studied what are the four layers of microsporangium. It is made up of four wall layers like this. The outer layer, what is an outer layer of it is called as epidermis. Epidermis, inner layer. Next to that layer is what? Endothecium. Okay, innermost layer is not the innermost, the third layer. What is the third layer called as a middle layer? Okay, middle layer, and the innermost layer is what? The tapetum. Remember, this tapetum is very important layer of microsporangium, which gives the nourishment for the developing what? Developing Anyone? Developing pollen grains, isn't it? The tapetum, usually the tapetum, one more function is also there. Not only it gives the nourishment for the developing pollen grains, but also in the pollen grain structure, you are going to study a layer, okay, which is called as a sporopollenin, okay. So that we will come to that later. Any doubt in this now? Already you have studied, just I'm giving the glance of that, okay. Then inside the microsporangium, there is a presence of a sporogenous tissue. Sporogenous tissue. So inside the sporogenous tissue, one of the cell act as MMC cell. Remember, one of the inside the sporogenous, where is the sporogenous tissue is present? Here in this region, the sporogenous tissue is present. Okay, so here it will be the sporogenous tissue will be present. So all the cells, whatever the cells which are present inside the sporogenous tissue, no, each cell act as what? This act as what? MMC cell. MMC cell stands for microspore mother cell. Remember, microspore mother cell. Now, this is diploid in nature. Okay, mother cell means it is diploid in nature, which undergo meiosis, which undergo what? Cell division, which undergo meiotic cell division, forms into microspore. Remember, microspore. The microspore is also called as what? Pollen grains. Remember, okay, the microspore is also called as a pollen grains. So each cell which is present inside the sporogenous tissue will be developed into a mature pollen grains. So from each cell, it forms into a tetrad formation like this. Okay, from each cell, as you know, at the end of meiosis, you have already studied in your first year PUC like meiosis and mitotic cell division. At the end of meiosis, it results in the formation of 4 daughter cells. So 4 pollen grains will be produced from a single MMC cell. That you have to remember. And later that will separate from each other like this. Okay. And individually it forms into what? Pollen grains. Finally, it forms into pollen grains. That is how the pollen grains will be produced inside the microsporangium. Okay. Any doubt till here, ma? Have you understood? All of you, have you understood this concept? Shall I move to the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
Next, coming to the structure of pollen grains. As you know, the pollen grains is made up of 2 layers, the outer layer and the inner layer. So the outer layer is called as the exine layer. The inner layer is called as the intine layer. Okay, inner to the intine layer, there is a presence of 2 cells. One is called as the vegetative cell and other one is called as the generative cell. So the generative cell is smaller, whereas the vegetative cell is little bit bigger. Okay, so this cell is called as vegetative cell, and the lower cell, which is called as generative cell. Coming to the exine layer, very important for your CT exams also. The exine layer, there is a chemical deposition is present on the exine layer, which is called as sporopollenin. Remember the sporopollenin, which is resistant to some of the organic acids and no enzyme can degrade it. Okay, no enzyme can degrade this sporopollenin. Okay, and even if you pour the acid on some of the pollen grains, no, it will never destroy. So that very strong chemical which is present on the exine layer, which is sporopollenin. So because of this property, okay, of the pollen grains, it can be used as a fossil fuels. Okay, it can be used in what? Fossil fuels. Okay, getting all of you? It can be stored for the future use also. Okay. Any doubt till here, pa? Anyone? Have you all understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it is preserved as fossils. You can also write fossil fuels. Instead of that, it can be preserved as a fossil fuels like that. Okay. So wherever the sporopollenin, there is a small hole. Okay, there is a small pore. I have written already here. So this small pore is called as what? The germ pore. GERM, germ pore is present. So wherever the germ pore is present, no, on that the sporopollenin is not present. Okay, wherever the germ pore is there, on that region the sporopollenin deposition is absent. We have to remember germ pore is a very important pore which is helpful for the pollen tube to come out. Okay, pollen tube will emerges out through the germ pore. Not only that, very important thing is which helps to produce a tube cell also along with that, which gives a passage for the pollen tube to enters out. So the pollen tube will comes out through the intine layer. Remember, wherever the intine layer is there, that intine layer will elongates, and through the germ pore, the pollen tube will comes out. Can anyone tell me what does this pollen tube carries? What will be present?
Male gametes.
Very nice, good. It has it will carries two male gametes. Good. So two male gametes will be carried by pollen tube. Okay, coming to the inner layer of the pollen grain, which is called as intine layer, which is made up of pectin. Okay, cellulose and pectin will be present. Remember the name of the chemical. Pectin and cellulose will be present in the intine, which is not so tough like that of the exine layer. Exine is very tough layer, whereas intine is not so tough. It is little bit thinner layer where the pectin and cellulose is the deposition. Okay, so coming to the inner layer of the intine, we have two cells, as I told you, vegetative cell and the generative cell. The vegetative cell, it gives the nourishment. Okay, it has a cytoplasm also. You can show like this. Okay, and the nucleus little bit bigger like a. So this vegetative cell gives the nourishment for the developing generative cell. The generative cell in future, it will divide, the generative cell divide and give rise to two male gametes. Remember, okay? So wherever the two generative cell is there, no, in that place only you can see the pollen. One sec. If you consider this is the generative cell, you can see the pollen tube will emerges like this. The germ pore will be present here. Okay, getting no? So whatever the male gametes are there, it will be carried by the pollen tube. So that's all about a little bit of explanation about the pollen grains now. So what are the next point is how these pollen grains are advantages and the disadvantages you will be knowing. Some the advantages is that some pollens are used in pollen banks, like the production of tablets. Okay, beekeeping, isn't it? Sorry, bee. What do we call it as that particular point there? Bee pollen, right? Getting? Bee pollen. Bee pollen is a particular tablet which is made by the pollen grains, and some pollen grains will be considered as a nutritive tissue. Okay, it is a nutrition or the protein supplement also you can take. Some pollen grains are a protein supplement. Okay, protein supplement, because even this type of capsules are used in the spacecrafts also. Instead of taking the food, they will just take the bee pollen tablets for the protein supplement. Okay, and the disadvantages of that is it usually causes asthma or the allergic reactions. Asthma, then bronchitis. Okay, so severe problems may also causes by the parthenium. You have seen the parthenium plant which releases the pollens, no, which is usually very, very allergic. Okay, that's all about a little bit points upon on the androecium. Now coming to the gynoecium, so which is called as a megasporangium, right? Megasporangium, the diagrammatic sketch and all, you know. Can anyone tell me briefly what are the points you have to suppose to remember? See, this is an anatropous ovule. Okay, just you have to remember that the anatropous ovule, how it looks like. Okay, so this one is. Okay, so there are presence of two integuments. Remember, that is very important points. These are the integuments. Outer integuments. This is outer integuments. This is inner integuments. And what is the stalk of the anatropous ovule? This one. Okay, anatropous ovule. This is called as what? The stalk, which is called as. Can anyone tell me what is a stalk is called as?
Funicle.
Yes? Funicle, good. Okay, it is called as a funicle. Then comes the hilum. The parts, as you have to remember properly, hilum, the integuments. So what is this integuments? Later it forms into. Can anyone tell me? Integuments, it will be converted in the future. Enagate? It forms into seed coat. Remember, these are the very important points. It will be asked in your examination point of view. The outer integuments and the inter integuments. Later, the formation of roots and seeds. No, so that these two integuments forms a protective covering. So that forms into a seed coat. What are the two types of seed coat? Can anyone tell me? Yes, fast. So outer testa, inner tegmen. Remember, you can write also the seed coat. The outer integuments forms into testa, and the inner integuments. Okay, so the inner integuments forms into tegmen. So testa and tegments, these are the two seed coats which is produced from the integuments. Okay, and coming to the inner to the integuments, as you know, this is a micropylar end. This and all you know. This one is the chalazal end. Okay, inner to the inner integument is the nucellus, which is the nutritive tissue. Remember, the nucellus is the nutritive tissue which gives the nourishment for the developing embryo sac. Okay, inner to the nucellus is the embryo sac. Inner to that, there are presence of 8 cells. You know, one is the egg apparatus. You have to remember. Okay, so in the egg apparatus, we have the egg and the 2 synergid cells. Okay, so together, egg and the synergid cells called as egg apparatus. Okay, egg apparatus. And one more apparatus which is present here in this region. Can anyone tell me what is that apparatus called as?
Filiform apparatus.
Very nice, ma. Good. So filiform apparatus which guides the pollen tube to enter into it. And these are the antipodal cells. Okay, and inner side, that is right, the cells which are present at the center, no, they are called as before going to mature, it is called as a polar nuclei. Okay, these polar nuclei later fuse together. These polar nuclei are small n and small n. Okay, this is n and this is also n, haploid. When they fuse together, it forms into a diploid structure called as a secondary nucleus. Right, it forms into what? Secondary nucleus. So this is a very important topic I wanted to discuss with you. You have to remember monocarpellary ovary. Okay, monocarpellary means only one carpel will be present. Bicarpellary too. Okay, for the examples also we are going to discuss it now. So monocarpellary, it is a pea plant is an example. Okay, multicarpellary, it is under multicarpellary, so many things are there like bicarpellary, tricarpellary, tetracarpellary, so on. So for bicarpellary, it is Vinca rosea. Remember, you can write there Vinca. Okay. Vinca. Okay, that is for bicarpellary. For tricarpellary, 3 carpels are there. Example is the castor. Castor. Okay, castor is an example for what? A tricarpellary. Syncarpus and apocarpus also you are knowing, right? Syncarpus means a fused carpels. Free means it is called as what? Apocarpus. So syncarpus, apocarpus, synandrous and apoandrous. Okay, synandrous means the fused androecium. So many terminologies are there. Till here, any doubt, anyone? Pa? Have you all understood this part?
Yes, ma'am.
So after this, we are going to study about a little bit about how these formation, that is megasporogenesis. The megasporogenesis where a single cell is there, okay, where this cell is present in the nucleus. Remember, in the nucleus, one of the cell is present. This cell undergo mitotic, simultaneous mitotic cell division, forms into two-celled, then it forms into four-celled stage, okay, so which is called as a dyad structure. This is called as a tetrad structure. Out of tetrad structure, what happens? The outer three cells which will degenerate, okay, it will disintegrate, and the lowermost cell is there, no, that will act as what? A functional what? Megaspore. Okay, so now this, what is this cell called as? What is this cell called as? MMC only. What is MMC here? Megaspore mother cell, right? Megaspore mother cell. Okay, so the now mother, this one undergoes simultaneous, and this megaspore, functional megaspore, now it give rise to the simultaneous division takes place, like what is the one cell is there, no, that forms into two cell, again two cell forms into what? Four cell. Four cell, again it divides into how many? Yes, tell me, no, anyone? First. Here two cell, here two cell, then it forms into eight cell. No, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 cells will be produced. Out of 8 cells, how it will be go and arrange? 3 cells will go and arrange in the antipodal cells, 2 cells comes and center, and one of the egg apparatus. Getting, no, how this that is how the megasporogenesis is formed. Understood, no? You have already studied in your classes, just a glance I have given. Any doubt till here, ma? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay. The next one is the pollination. Okay, I think the pollination chapter topic is very easy. So what I feel to will move to the question and answers. Is that okay, pa? Or you want me to explain that also? Pollination?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, because from the lower classes also you have studied. So we'll move to the question and answers now. The first question is, a typical angiospermic anther is a bilobed and tetragonal, consisting of, out of 4, what is the answer? 4, isn't it? 4 microsporangium is present. That is the answer. Please make a note. A typical angiospermic anther, just now I told you, which is bilobed and it is tetragonal, consisting of 4 microsporangia. So the first question, the answer is the third option. Next, select the odd one out with respect to the wall layers of microsporangium in flowering plants. Just now I have discussed that also. Can anyone tell me fast?
Fourth option.
Fourth option. Good. It is a hilum is a part of the ovary. That is not the answer. Okay. The ploidy of endothecium, microspore mother cell, microspore, and the generative cell is. What do you mean by ploidy? What do you mean by ploidy? Ploidy is nothing but the alteration in the chromosomal number. Remember, the alteration in the chromosomal number is called as ploidy. So example is that a normal human being will be having 46 chromosomes, right? If to the 46 chromosomes, if we add one of the chromosome, you have already studied this under genetics, right? The Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndrome, where one of the chromosome is added by mistake or by the mutation, okay, by sudden heritable changes. So what happens? The number of chromosomes will be 47. Either addition of one chromosome or the deletion of one chromosome. This condition is called as what? Ploidy. Aneuploidy. Okay, so many ploidies are there. So understand the point like ploidy. So ploidy here is the number of chromosomes they have given. So the ploidy of endothecium mother cell. See, microspore mother cell is 2n, right? The microspore mother cell is 2n. Then they have given it is, second one is what? Microspore, right? Microspore. What is the microspore? This one, ploidy of endothecium microspore. Actually, there you just put a comma there. Endothecium they have given. Whatever the cells are present is the diploid. The next one is a microspore mother cell is also a diploid in nature. Microspore is a small n, and the generative cell is also small n. Okay, it becomes into small n later. So this is how the second option is the correct option. Please make a note. The third one is second option. Any doubt, ma? Have you all understood what is ploidy, everything? Yes, please interact.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Which of the following options about tapetum is correct? Very easy. Just now I have told you. If you're before me, if you read the questions, that is very good actually. So what is the options there? First option, right? So as you know, tapetum is a nutritive tissue, okay, which gives the nourishment for the developing pollen grains. Coming to the fifth questions there, the number of meiotic division requires for the formation of 100 male gametes from the microspore mother cell. This is a very interesting and one of the logic question it is. So as you know, from the meiosis, so 4 cells are produced. As just now I have discussed with you, the meiotic cell division leads to the gamete formation, in the sense what MMC cells are present. From the MMC cells, the male gametes are producing. Okay, so the options it is 4. The options they have given it is what? 50, 100, 25, and 13. So you should be knowing 100 male gametes has to be produced now. For 100 gametes, you should be know from each MMC, from each microspore mother cell, 4 daughter cells, 4 male gametes will be produced. So in the sense what? 25 into 4. So 25 MMC cells are there. Okay, from the MMC, 25 MMC cell, that is undergoing what? Meiotic cell division. So because of that, 4 daughter cells are producing. That leads to the formation of 100 male gametes. Any doubt, ma? Have you all understood the fifth question? How you have to take it? Like this only they will give. So whatever the male gametes are producing, so you have to divide it by 4. So that gives you the answer. Okay, because you should be knowing meiotic cell division leads to the formation of 4 cells, 4 daughter cells. That is the answer. Coming to the sixth question, in flowering plants, the generative cell of pollen grains divides mitotically to give rise to. Very easy question. So just now we have discussed. So the generative cell, it is this a generative cell that will divide and give rise to how many male gametes? Yes, very easy. Why you people are not
2 male gametes.
Yes, the first options, right? 2 male gametes will be produced. The first option is the correct option. Okay, seventh one. If you don't know, it's okay. Even if you are knowing and you are not interactive is not a good one. Okay, please interact with me. Then the seventh question. The prominent pollen grain apertures called germ pore are present on, which is present on which layer? Just now we have discussed. It is present on the exine layer. Yes, good. Exine layer, which is there in the third option. Please make a note. Coming to the eighth question, intine is made up of. This also we have just now told everything. Yes, pectin, pectocellulose, isn't it? Pectocellulose, which is there in the second option. Please make a note. The ninth one, proubist bodies appears in cytoplasm of dash. So, which is not present in the endothelium middle layer, then epidermis, which is present on the tapetum. So, this is the nutritive tissue. Okay, the option is what? The third one. Okay, third one is the option tapetum. Coming to the 10th question, the exine of pollen grain is composed of.
Spore of
Very
pollen.
nice. Good, ma'am. Good. Yes. 11th one. Which one is surrounded by cellulose wall? Cellulose wall is surrounded by what? Male gametes, egg cell, microspore tetrad, isn't it? So microspore tetrad, you have to remember on that there is a presence of cellulose wall will be present, because the cellulose, pectocellulose is present in what? Intine layer, right? From the intine layer, microspore tetrad will be produced. Yes, coming to the next question, the 12th question. The
Ma'am,
number,
is that not microspore mother cell?
which one, ma'am? Cellulose wall,
Yes, ma'am.
microspore tetrad. But the microspore mother cell is also a correct option, but it will be retained. It will be retained by what? Microspore tetrad, right? Getting? Microspore tetrad, it is in the sense, microspore mother cell, it will be there. Okay, but it will be carry forward to what? Microspore tetrad. So the correct options will be microspore tetrad only, okay? Not the microspore mother cell. Yeah. Next one is 12th question. The number of germ pore in dicot and monocot germ pollen grains are respectively. Germ pore in dicots, it will be 3. Remember the points. So the 12th question, answer is the second option. Remember, the number of germ pore in dicot, it is always 3, and in case of monocot, it is always 1. So in case of monocots, only 1 germ pore will be present, and in case of dicots, it is 3. Okay. Coming to the 13th question, the 2 cells at which pollen grains are discharged are, where it is going to discharge. 13th one, smaller generative cell and a larger vegetative cell, right? Getting? The generative cell will be always smaller, whereas the generative cell, okay, generative in the sense the vegetative cell is usually the larger, that we are already discussed. The 4th option is the correct option. Next, coming to the 14th one, in which of the following plant the number of ovules in an ovary is 1? Very easy. Monocarpic. Monocarpic means inside the embryo sac where there is only 1 ovule. That is the first option. Mango. Mango, we have only 1 ovule, isn't it? But in case of watermelon, we have, you can also see, the, as you know, the ovules will be develops into seeds, right? The ovary wall develops into fruit. So if it is a monocarpic, means it is a first option. In case of orchids, in case of papaya, and in case of watermelon, we have many ovules inside the ovary, right? Many ovules inside the ovary. Okay, coming to the 15th question. Meiotic division in an ovule takes place in, yes, very easy. Meiotic cell division takes place only in case of a diploid cell, isn't it? In case of diploid cell only, the meiotic cell division takes place. Okay, don't get confused here if I am written here like a short form. Meiotic cell division. Meiotic cell division It takes place only in case of a diploid. So the answer for this is the fourth option, which is a megaspore mother cell. No other mother cells they have given, only my megaspore is given. Megaspore is a haploid, a nucellus is a haploid, then archisporium is also haploid, whereas megaspore mother cell is a diploid where it undergo meiotic cell division. I think no doubts. Okay, 16th one. Endoploidy nucellus, megaspore mother cell, functional megaspore and female gametophyte. Again, the first option is correct that we have discussed before, one question like this only. Please go through it. Okay, 2n, 2n, n, n. Okay. Find the incorrect statement that respect to female gametophyte. So for this, tell me, can anyone tell me incorrect statement, the wrong statement? It does not, the female gametophyte does not remain permanently embedded inside the megasporangium, right? It is generally 7-celled structure. It is not always 7 cells. Sometimes it may be 8-celled also. Okay, the nucleus. You have to remember. So for the 17th question, the third option is the correct option. So it does not remains permanently, right? So it has there 100%, there will be a change in the megasporangium, female gametophyte. Yes. It is not the fourth option also, because the endosperm and the embryo are formed after fertilization. It is correct options, right? Getting ma? Endosperm and the embryo, these are which is formed after fertilization. That is correct. It is generally 7-celled structure. That is also correct. It is derived from the functional megaspore. That is also correct. The incorrect option is what? The third one. You have to remember. Next, how many meiotic and mitotic divisions are required for the formation of polygonum type of embryo sac? What do you mean by polygonal type? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by polygonal type? Poly refers to many, right? Helboda?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So poly refers to many embryo sac can be produced. So that is the answer for this. What is the answer? 18th one. The
1,
fourth,
2.
is it 1, 2 or 1, 3? Meiotic and mitotic divisions are required for the formation of polygonum type. Okay, polygonum type means a more than 2 it should be. So the fourth option is correct, ma. Mark madkoli 1 to 3 respectively. Next, coming to the 19th question, the sequence of development of embryo sac is?
Third option, ma'am.
Very good, correct. Archisporium, from that megaspore mother cell. From the megaspore mother cell, it forms into megaspore. From the megaspore, it develops into an embryo sac. Correct. So the sequence you have to follow the option third one. Okay, for 19th question, third option is the correct answer. The 20th question, tetrad of megaspore produced from a megaspore mother cell is mostly, the divisions they have asked here. Okay, you have to remember, is it isobilateral? What do you mean by isobilateral? Can anyone tell me? Same, similar, if it is like this, tetrad megaspore produced from a megaspore mother cell, it will be linear only. Linear means what? One above the other, right? See, if the 4 cells are produced, I have given the diagrammatic sketch before also. Like this, the diagram I have drawn, right? Like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 3 will degenerate, as I told you, and from the lowermost, which is present towards the micropylar end, no, there that will give rise to megaspores, isn't it? So megaspore mother cell will give rise to a linear cell division. Remember, it produced from a megaspore mother cell is always linear. It is not a tetrahedral. Tetrahedral means what? like this it will be tetrahedral structure. Okay, how we will write in case of tetrahedral structure in your mathematics, remember that. Okay, it is not isobilateral also. It is not bilaterally, means not one above the like this. By isobilateral, not like this, not the cells are present here like this. So it is like a linear. Okay, linearly the formation of cells takes place. Okay, remember that one. Next, coming to the 21st question. This one is second option. Embryo sac is called as a monosporic when it develops from, very easy, it develops from, yes, one of the megaspore out of the 4 megaspore which is derived from the division of megaspore mother cell. Only one megaspore is involved. Remember, from one of the cell, monosporic means what? Embryo sac is formed from one megaspore. Hence, only it is called as what? Monosporic. Okay, so the 21st question option is fourth. The fourth option is correct. All the 4 megaspore, no, from not all the 4 megaspore it will be not produced, right? Only from one. Remember, just now I have drawn the diagram, no, only from the, like this, no, from only one cell it produces. It produces into an embryo sac. The embryo sac is produced from the lower, only one cell is involved. Hence, the name is given as a monosporic development. Okay, I think you have understood this point. Yes. 22nd question. Filiform apparatus is the characteristic features of, very easy,
Synergid.
very nice. Second option. If you give the answer, we can go it very fast first. I think you will be understanding the things. Mark the odd one out of the options: homogamy, cleistogamy, decliny, bud pollination. Contravences of autogamy. So in the sense, in reference to autogamy means, you know, self-pollination. Have to go along with the self-pollination. Which is the answer for that? It is decliny, right? Isn't it? What is meant by decliny? It is decliny is say allogamy, isn't it? It is nothing but what? Allogamy. Remember, decliny is nothing but D-I-C-L-I-N-Y. Decliny. Decliny is refers to what? Allogamy. Allogamy is nothing but a cross pollination. But here they have asked about the autogamy. Autogamy refers to self pollination. Remember. So 24th question. Which of the following pollination is common amongst the biotic agent? Abiotic. So as you have studied biotic and abiotic factors, tell me. Abiotic factors, non-living, hydrophily or ornithophily. Which of the following pollination is common, very common, takes place? Is it hydrophily or ornithophily? Ornithophily means what? Last class.
Pollination by birds.
Very nice, good. Anemophily, right? Anemophily means what?
Pollination through wind.
Very nice, very good, man. Through wind. So the most common pollination is taken place by the wind. So the option is fourth option, anemophily. Chasmogamy is a pollination in
Open flowers.
Very nice. Open flowers. Chasmogamous in open flowers, clistogamous in closed flowers. Yes, 25th question answer is 26th. We'll move to fast. Third one option. 26th. Long ribbon-like pollen grains are seen in some. Very easy. This also you would have studied.
Wind pollinated grasses.
No, ma, not the wind pollinated grass. It is there in the aquatic plants. So first one is the answer. So remember, the long ribbon-like pollens are present in the pollen grains or the pollens of hydrophily. where it has to swim in water. So the ribbon-like structure which helps in the swimming in water. Not only that characteristic features, one more I will tell you, it has a mucilaginous coating also. So the mucilaginous coating will avoid the pollen grains from wetting. Okay, it is present in water, so it will wet means it cannot fly in water. In the sense, it cannot swim in water. So that is the very important characteristic features of an aquatic plants there. Next, we'll move to the 27th question. Pollination by bats are called as?
Fourth option.
Very nice, ma. Good. Chirapterophily, ornithophily by birds, malacophily. Can anyone tell me? Malacophily. Barcoli, ants. Okay, malacophily, the pollination is by ants. This may be asked. Okay, and myrmecophily. Can anyone tell me? Myrmecophily. Yeah. By snails. Okay, by snails. Yes, we'll move to the next one, 28th question. Clistogamous flowers is found in, okay, Oila. Okay, so the second option is the correct options in that. Mirabilis, nun and tobacco, in this and all, the clistogamous flower, chasmogamous flower. Example for clistogamous, it is Oila. Okay, that is the option, correct option. 29th question. When pollen grains of a flower falls on the stigma of another flower of the same plant, this condition is called as? Yes, second one. Okay, see the second one. Genetically self-pollination and ecologically cross-pollination. What the question is given here is the flower is born in one plant, and here also one flower is born on the same plant of the different flowers. The different flowers born on the same plant. So the pollen grains which is falling onto the stigmatic surface, okay, the stigmatic surface of the another flower, okay. Here the pollination is taken place, but they are genetically similar, right? They are genetically similar, but it looks like a cross-pollination, okay. It is not exactly cross-pollination, ecologically cross-pollination, no. Genetically cross-pollination and ecologically self-pollination, no. So genetically it is a self-pollination, but they are ecologically it looks like a cross-pollination. Coming to the next question, 30th question. Which of the following type of pollination brings genetically different types of pollen grains to the stigma? What type of pollination they have asked here? Type. Third one, right? Xenogamy. Remember, xenogamy is a cross-pollination. Okay, xenogamy is a cross-pollination, whereas autogamy means self-pollination is gethnogamy, autogamy, acrogamy. What do you mean by acrogamy? Can anyone tell me? Acrogamy. It is not given in your textbook, like it is not involved. Okay, so let me not go in detail because they will ask about the cross-pollination, gethnogamy, xenogamy. Okay, so acrogamy will be not asked. Okay, next coming to the 31st question there. Epihydrophily is found in epihydrophily.
Vallisneria.
Very nice, good. Epi refers to above. Okay, hydrophily means the pollination is by water. Next one, 32nd question. Pollen tube is produced by, my God, this is a very easy question, like this, very simple question. It is, yeah, anyone can tell me this? Pollen, yes, it comes from the intine, no, I have told you. So while explaining only, I have told you, which is from the intine. So if you consider this is intine region, from this only the pollen tube will comes out. Here will be the exine layer. Getting? So whatever the male gamete, it will passes into it. Yes, the 33rd question. Number of male gametes in one of the pollen tube? 2, isn't it? I need not to tell that. Pollen viability of rice and wheat plants. This is very important. The 34th question. What do you mean by viability? How many minutes it will be survived? It is comes out from the pollen grains. The sense, not the pollen grains, it comes from the anther, isn't it? From the anther. Okay. What is the minute? How many minutes it will be viable for rice? Yes, good, 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes is the viable period for the rice and the wheat. Okay, coming other thing, they can more than a minute, months it can survive. Okay, there is no 30 hours is there, several months is there, 30 seconds is there. So you have to remember Rosaceae, Leguminosae, and Solanaceae family. Okay, that can survive for several months. Okay, Solanaceae means the brinjal. Example, so many you have studied in your first PUC, Solanaceae and Rosaceae family. Okay. Coming to the 35th question. The function of pollen tube in angiosperm is to carry. Go through the options there. Flagellated sperms, male and female gametes, non-flagellated male gametes, and the female gametes. It is a third option, right? So the male gametes, it is transferring. And what type of male gametes it is? What type of male gametes? Non-flagellated means they are non-motile. Okay, non-motiles are present. So how many questions are there still? 60 questions, right? Yes, ma'am. Fast. Pollination occurs by pseudo-copulation mechanism. What do you mean by pseudo-pollination? Please be interact. Pseudo-copulation means what? Pseudo refers to false. What do you mean by copulation? Fusion between the male and female gametes. Okay, that is called as what? The copulation. False copulation or the pseudo copulation takes place in case of Ophrys. Ophrys, not the fig, not the mango, not the zinnia. The first option, Ophrys. Oehrys. Ophrys is the answer. 37th question.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, anyone is interactive?
Ma'am, only 35 questions are there, ma'am, in the PDF.
Isn't it? So only I'm asked only 38 questions. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, 37. Okay, 36th question is only enough. Okay, because still so much, not so much in the sense I have sent only 37th question. It was there in the next page. Like there's a go to level. So next we will start with. Next, we will start with the first chapter, second chapter in the first year PUC, that is biological classification. Okay, under biological classification, one sec. Yeah, what are the topics you have studied in the biological classification part? Very important point is the first classification of organisms. As we know, in our surroundings, there are millions and trillions of organisms, right? So we have to classify, then only we can analyze, isn't it? So we can study about the particular organism. So here, the Aristotle, as you know, he is the basic, he's a scientist basis for classification. He's a father of biology as well as the zoology also, isn't it? Aristotle, we have discussed. Then Linnaeus, Carolus Linnaeus has given a two-kingdom classification. So please make a note, biological classification. Biological classification. In this, we have discussed two kingdom classification. Two kingdom classification. In that, who has given two kingdom classification? Carolus Linnaeus. Please make a note that. Okay. And in the two kingdom classification, what and all was there in the two kingdom classification? One is the Plantae, other one is and Animalia, isn't it? Animaliae. So these are the two kingdom classification was there in the pre-year. Okay. And after that, they have started including so many. After this, a three kingdom classification was given. Three kingdom classification was given. There they have added what? So by this two kingdom classification, they would have not studied that what and all eukaryotes, what and all prokaryotes, everything. Then three kingdom classification came into existence. There they have added Protista. Okay, they have added what? Protista. Protista, Plantae, and Animalia came into existence. And later, after this, one more scientist, that is the first one, the three kingdom classification was given by Haeckel. Remember the name? Haeckel. Okay, Haeckel was given three kingdom classification. And Colloid, Copland, okay. Copland, he has given the four kingdom classification. Four kingdom, okay. Fourth kingdom classification. Four kingdom classification that he has introduced like a Monera, okay. Monera, remember? Monera, then Protista, Plantae, okay, Plantae, and Animalia. Okay. So later, after all this, one more scientist named, okay, very important. Who has found out the five kingdom classification? Isn't it? R.H. Whittaker. Okay. R.H. Whittaker was given the five kingdom classification. He has added along with the Monera. Okay. I will write the short form. Monera, Protista, then fungi, okay, fungi, then Plantae and Animalia. Like this, five kingdom classification was given by R.H. Whittaker. He has given a proper explanation why two kingdom classification was not properly accepted. He would have not taught a proper explanation. Like based on the how they are characterized based on their cell type, cell wall, nuclear membrane, body organization, then the mode of nutrition, everything based on all these structure. The two kingdom classification, three kingdom classification, as well as four kingdom classification was not able to prove it. Okay, they have not given a proper idea. So after that, the R.H. Whittaker, he has given a proper explanation based on all these characters. Now we are referring R.H. Whittaker's five kingdom classification. Okay, till here, any doubt, anyone? Have you all understood? Coming to the kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera. So in kingdom Monera, you have to remember all kinds of bacteria are classified under kingdom Monera. Okay, so here you have to remember. So based on the classification, how these bacteria are divided, in the first in the chapter first page only it is there, like a bacillus form, right? Rod shaped bacteria. Bacillus form is there, cocci form is there, cocci form, then spirulum is there, spirulum shaped, then vibrio below is the comma-shaped bacteria. So based on their shape, then they are classified the bacteria like this, and based on their nutrition, isn't it? Based on their nutrition, they are divided into autotrophs, heterotrophs. This and all you already know. I'm not going in detail with this. Autotrophic organisms, you know. Heterotrophic organisms, you know. Chemotropic organism. Okay, the organisms which of the chemicals for their food. They are called as chemotropic organism. So in this Onera, you have to remember very important is the archaebacteria here. For your CET classes, archaebacteria are very important here. So examples for archaebacteria is the methanogens. Methanogens. Okay, archaebacteria are those bacteria which lives in their extreme condition, right? So extreme conditions means what? Where a normal organisms cannot live. In that places, some of the bacteria can live, no? So those bacteria are called as archaebacteria. Like the bacteria which lives in a saline condition, like in a sea water, okay? And some bacteria which lives in thermophiles, which is called as what? Thermophiles. In very high temperature, like volcanic eruptions, you can take our thermo water, the water geology, you can say. So thermophiles, okay, thermophiles and halophiles, we call it as, okay, halophiles. Halophiles are those bacteria which lives in very high salt condition. And one more is there, thermoacidophiles also. Remember, thermoacidophiles, halophiles, these are the examples for what? Archaebacteria. After archaebacteria, you have to remember about the eubacteria. Eubacteria is also called as what? True bacteria, where examples for that true bacteria is the nostoc, oscillatoria, okay, cyanobacteria, okay. So these are all the very important point you should remember on the bacteria, okay. Next, how these bacteria, have you heard of symbiotic bacteria? What are the, I have told you about the nutrition, you can just add here also. Under nutrition, autotrophic, heterotrophic, chemotropic, then parasitic, okay. Parasitic means they act as a parasite, depends upon other for their food, as well as the saprophytes, okay. Saprophytic nutrition, okay. Saprophytes, you can say, the organisms which depends upon dead and decaying substances. That is also one of the important things. Then some of the bacteria which helps in, not helps in, which usually causes diseases. Can anyone tell me some of the diseases which is usually caused by bacteria? Cholera, isn't it? Typhoid. So many are there. Okay, so many bacteria which usually causes disease in our body. So they are some of the bacteria you have to remember. Then after that, cyanobacteria, very important. Please make a note of what I'm going to write now. PPLO. Usually they will ask in the full form. PPLO. Pleuropneumonia-like organism. Pleuro. Pleuro. One sec. I will Pleuropneumonia. Pneumonia. Like organism. Very important organism, which is the smallest organism. Remember, the smallest monera, okay, which is very important. Flexible in shape, it can change its shape depending upon the environment. So PLO stands for pleuropneumonia like organism, which is the smallest organism. Okay, and Coming to the next kingdom Protista. That's all about the kingdom Monera now. Kingdom Protista. In the kingdom Protista, what and all you have to remember here is dinoflagellates. Kingdom Protista. What are the examples for kingdom Protista? They are usually phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons. What are phytoplanktons? Usually present in water. Okay, phytoplanktons are usually present in water, which can be food for other organisms. Phytoplanktons. They usually floats in water currents. Okay, and in this you have to remember one thing very important is the diatomaceous earth. Please take a note. This one very important for your examination point of view. Diatomaceous earth. In your NCERT textbook, it is given properly. The pile up at the bottom of the water reservoirs. So at the bottom of the reservoirs, we can see some of the forms of big heaps, okay, big heaps of diatomaceous earth, which is usually made up of the diatoms. Okay, made up of diatoms, and these are used for polishing. Okay, what is the applications of diatomaceous earth? They may ask like, so it is used in polishing. Okay, it may be used in polishing. Then filtration of the oils. Okay, filtration of oil and syrups. 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 Okay, so there the diatomaceous earth is present. Then one of the very important property of so many categories are there in the Protista. Please go through the syllabus which is there in the first PUC. There dinoflagellates is one of the important dinoflagellates. Okay, dinoflagellates means these organisms, they usually have two flagella like this. Okay, they are usually have a very important property in them. They are called as a bioluminescence. Write down bioluminescence property. So bioluminescence property, bio refers to living. Luminescence property means it emits light from their body. So these are usually these types of dinoflagellates are present in the very deep ocean. Okay, they are present in very deep ocean. So it cannot see whatever it is present in the deep ocean. So in order to what is an adaptation for her for its body is that a bioluminescence property. From their body only the light will comes out. Through that light it is visible for that particular organism. Okay, please remember very important point in case of dinoflagellates you have to remember, and in case of chrysophytes, so the diatomaceous earth what I told you, which comes under chrysophytes. Okay, that is also very important. Then euglenoids. The next division is the euglenoids. Example, euglena, as you know, they are the photosynthetic organism, euglena. Okay, so not so important. Whatever very important only I'm doing here. The slime molds. Okay, slime molds, which is one of the other very important slime molds. In this, you have to remember is the plasmodium organism, plasmodium, which comes under this slime molds. Okay, so plasmodium, what the disease it causes plasmodium? You have studied in disease and organisms there also. Protozoans. The last one is the protozoans, where amoeboid structure, flagellated structure you have studied. And in this, very important is Leishmania, the Kala-Azar disease. Please make a note. I will write it down. Kala-Azar disease. Kala-Azar. Okay, Kala Azar disease, which is which causes means leishmania. Okay, have you heard of leishmania? Leishmania, which causes leishmania, is a particular kind of a protozoan. Remember, this is a protozoan. This protozoan causes a Kala Azar disease. Okay, Kala Azar disease, which causes very high fever, which is a parasite actually. Protozoa, it is nothing but a parasite. It requires a host body to cause a disease. Okay. Then a trypanosoma. Have you ever heard of trypanosoma, which is from the American, okay, which is from the South America. It has been invented. So just make a note, trypanosoma. Then ciliated protozoans. What are ciliated? Means it has cilia. Cilia means what? A small hair-like structure which is present around the worms, which is called as sporozoans. Next, in case of kingdom fungi, that's all about the kingdom protista. Very important, whatever the important thing only that I have discussed here. In kingdom fungi, so here you have to remember like the mycelium. So what is mycelium here? If you consider this is the plant body of a fungi like this, okay, so many branches will be there. Okay, so this particular region or this region, anything is called as hypha. Okay, the individual unit is called as hypha. The group of hypha, the entire thing is called as what? Mycelium, which is called as what? Mycelium. Very important one point you have to remember is the mycorrhiza. Can anyone tell me what is mycorrhiza? Association, mycorrhiza. Myco refers to root. Remember, myco refers to roots. Okay, rhiza refers to, very sorry, one sec. Myco refers to, one sec. Mycorrhiza. Myco refers to fungi. Myco refers to fungi. Okay, rhiza refers to root. Okay, the roots if this is a plant body, if this is a roots, here and all you will find out the fungi association. So the fungi which is associated with the root is called as mycorrhiza. Okay, so the mycorrhiza is the symbiotic association. Very important point, symbiotic association. Okay, symbiotic refers to what? Both the organisms are mutually associated with each other. Getting both are symbiotically associated with each other. Hence, it is called as mycorrhiza is very important in some of the plants, which helps in the which absorbs the water from the deep in the soil to this properly. One of the examples of mycorrhiza, when we will be studying the biofertilizers, then you will come to know. Okay. So any doubt till here, everyone understood? So please go through it, the fungal classification like Ascomycetes. Okay, Ascomycetes, then Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. Actually, it is a very big chapter. Okay, so Ascomycetes, which is what are Ascomycetes are commonly called as, very important, sac fungi. Remember, Ascomycetes are commonly called as sac fungi. Then Basidiomycetes, this is called as a club fungi. Okay, the Basidiomycetes are called as a club fungi. Deuteromycetes are called as fungi imperfecti, isn't it? Are imperfect fungi. Remember, imperfect fungi, where you cannot see the sexual reproduction, only asexual reproduction is present. Okay, so basidiocarp, basidiospores, everything you are going to study, very important point. Next, coming to the kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae, you have to remember the alteration of generation. Okay, alteration of generation, which means that what is alteration of generation here? Tell me now. First, the plant body will be gametophyte. Okay, the plant body is a gametophyte. That gametophyte will be it is followed by what? Sporophyte, isn't it? Sporophyte. So it is alternative like this. That is a cyclic manner. Gametophyte will be ends with the sporophyte, and the sporophyte ends with the gametophyte. Hence, it is alternative manner. Hence, the name is given as alteration of generation, that you can understand in case of plants. And plants and all, you know, photosynthetic, that and all, I will not go in detail. So the last part of this chapter is virus, viroids, and prions and lichens. Very important questions will be asked in this topic here. Dmitry Ivanovsky, please make a note there. Dmitry Ivanovsky, he recognized certain microbes which usually causes diseases in our mosaic disease in tobacco. So remember TMV, isn't it? Tobacco mosaic viruses, which was first given by Dmitry Ivanovsky. Dmitry Ivanovsky, okay, in 1982. In 1892. Okay, in 1892. Okay. So after that, who has given the name as virus there? M.W. Bejernik demonstrated the experiment, and he has given as the vivum fluid. So you can make a note, M.W. Bejernik, B-E-I-G-E-R-N-I-K, Bejernik, N-I-C-K. Okay, so he has proved that viruses are poison. So the name, the vivum, is nothing but what? The vivum fluidium, in the sense infectious living body. Viruses are poison, in the sense it is the name of what? Latin word it is. Okay, so then the viruses may be, you can see the DNA viruses as well as RNA viruses. Remember this TMV, tobacco mosaic viruses, is an RNA viruses. The very important single-stranded, okay, single-stranded RNA viruses is the thing. Then example for a double-stranded DNA, can anyone tell me? Adenoviruses. Okay, remember adenoviruses, double-stranded. They may ask like example for a single-stranded RNA. Single-stranded RNA, it is for tobacco mosaic viruses. Even HIV virus, okay, HIV virus is also a single-stranded. Double-stranded RNA, adenovirus, you can say double-stranded DNA. Okay, double-stranded RNA. Okay, double-stranded RNA is adenovirus. You can take herpes. Okay, herpes virus, a very dreadful disease which usually causes rheumatoid arthritis. Herpes virus. Okay, so that you know. Then cauliflower mosaic virus. These are some of the examples where you can see double-stranded DNA virus. Okay. Next, what do we call it as the TMV virus, the tobacco mosaic virus will be having small cells in between. They are called as capsomeres, remember. And how many capsomeres will be present? Any idea? Capsomeres? 1, 0, 1039 capsomeres are present. And last one is the viroids. Viroids, what are viroids? They are smaller than the viruses. Remember, viroids are the smaller than the virus, which is more dangerous than the viruses. Okay. And they have a free RNA. Okay, that you have to remember. Protein coat will be not there. Protein coat will be not there in case of viroids. Remember. And prions. On this, so many questions are asked till now. Prions are the harmful, are the proteinaceous diseases. Okay, prions are the proteinaceous particle, are the, you can write there, infectious. Okay, prions are the infectious protein particles. Okay, which causes so many diseases like Scurpy disease of sheep. Okay, Scurpy disease of sheep. Then CJD. Remember, CJD disease is caused by, CJD stands for Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Okay. So remember, CJD disease and the Scurpy disease usually, which is caused by the prions itself. And the last topic for today's class will be the lichens. Lichens, you have heard of. Lichens are usually act as a pollution-free indicator. They are called as a pollution indicator. Please make a note, a pollution indicator, in the sense where the area where there is less pollution, no, in that area the lichens usually grows. So usually these lichens are grows on the bark of a tree as well as on the barren rocks and all. Okay, remember that. Okay, and the lichens are usually made up of two components. The first one is called as a phycobient, and the next one is the mycobient. Okay, phycobient refers to the algal component will be present in phycobient, and in case of mycobient it is called as the fungal association. So these algae and fungi both are symbiotically associated. Please remember that you can give an example for symbiotic association for lichens. So phyco refers to algae and myco refers to fungi. So algae will prepares the food for the mycobient partner, whereas the fungal association which gives the water and nutrition to the particular algae. So these two are symbiotically associated with each other. So we have completed the second chapter of the first PUC syllabus, which is the biological classification completely almost. And for in the second PUC, we have completed sexually reproducing organisms, and based on some of the questions also we have solved. Okay, it's already time. Okay, so tomorrow, next class, not the tomorrow, next class I will be doing with the multiple choice questions of this particular chapter, and we will try to complete a few more topics in the next class. Have you understood today's class, all of you? Are you thinking this class is benefited?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you all, ma'am. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, ma'am.